Hey guys, Rohan over here. Going to be bringing you the Rock Brigade fan series of the Def Leppard discography, where I'm going to be reviewing each of the albums that Def Leppard has put out since 1979, and they're still going strong. We're being told that there might be a new album out next year, and here's hoping that it's going to be good. But for right now, we're going to kind of see things right all the way from the beginning, and by that I mean with the Def Leppard EP. Now, what's interesting, I think, first of all, is to give you a bit of background about this, is that this was actually the EP that Def Leppard, in fact, the story goes that Joe borrowed a lot of money from his dad. The band had to like pawn a lot of items. They really had to get a lot of funds together to try and make this album work. And what they finally ended up with was kind of interesting. So on this album, before it was actually recorded, or this EP, there was Tony Kenning, who was the original drummer, was actually fired from the band. So they actually had a guy called Frank Noon who was filling in for Tony on this particular EP. And this is way before they actually met the Thunder God himself, Rick Allen. So what's interesting to note about this album is that it has a very unique drum style to it. Frank Noon, I think, has some really good talent which is displayed out here. And apart from that, we have the original members of Def Leppard themselves. So Joe Elliott on vocals, we got Steve Clark, God bless you, man, we all miss you. And he was on lead guitar, and we have Pete Willis as well, who is the other lead guitarist as well, who featured on the first two albums, which came after this. And then we have Rick Savage on bass. What's interesting to note was that if you get to hear this album right now, is that it has a very interesting raw sound, but it's still very Def Leppard in orientation. And the simple fact that when you hear the songs, you can actually know that this is Def Leppard straight off. What it starts out with is a pretty interesting track, which is Right Into the Sun. Now, for the hardcore Leopard fans, you would know that this track actually is featured on their sixth release from this, or yeah, you could say seventh release in a way, which was Retroactive. And Retroactive features a slightly reworked rendition of this particular song, which has, Ian Hunter actually playing a piano part before the actual song begins. And that actually featured Phil Collins and Rick Allen on that version, obviously. But for the song itself, you notice that the lyrics are quite different on this particular track. There's a slightly changed way in which the tempo actually flows. But overall, it's a straight out hard rocker, definitely catchy from the forward go. Really grabs your attention, really makes you really want up and actually say that, yes, this is good rock, this is good music. And what's interesting about this track is that it is, it has this very nice free vibe to it, in the sense that it really makes you feel like, you're really getting into the whole rhythm of the song straight off. And I think that's really appealing about it. The same thing goes for the retroactive version, which is slightly different. Then again, also great track, but we'll come to that when we're actually doing Retroactive's review. The following track is Get Your Rocks Off, which was actually then changed to just Rocks Off on the On Through the Night album. And even over here, you can actually see Leopard, doing what they do best. It's a really awesome track. I really think this is an album, or shall we say album track, that they should actually be, probably performing a little bit more. But then obviously they say that not everyone may have heard of this track. Now, I don't know why they say that. A lot of Leopard fans would really want to see this track actually being played live a lot more. Joe himself says that it's one of his favorite tracks from the early days and so on. But anyway, who knows? We might just get rewarded with it. And the overall interesting thing about this track is that it's very catchy. It's kind of it's got an anthem. You could say it's the anthem track of this particular EP. And what's interesting, what follows is the overture track, which is once again found on the On Through the Night album. And this is actually pretty interesting because it actually showed a lot of variation in style. So you can see a lot of Led Zeppelin in this. You can see a bit of Floyd, if you will. Some guys might argue that they may not, but hey, that's just my opinion. You let me know what you feel. And the overall EP itself just showed, how Leopard was not willing to get, boxed in with this particular style. They were actually willing to experiment a bit, as you can see with the final and third track, which is the longest one as well. I think overall it's a great EP. The cover for itself was pretty interesting. I think it was actually, and it is again, the story goes that it is a spoof on the HMV cover, which is of His Master's Voice, which actually has a gramophone and a dog looking into it. But in this case, it has a gramophone and a leopard standing next to it. For me, I think it's a great album cover. Black and white, not a lot of graphics here, but just plain and simple. And for me personally, I'd love to see, a leopard graphic, on any of their future album covers. I think it'd just be really cool to actually see that happen. But overall, do check it out. I think it's really good. It gives you a good sense of where this band was at the point in 1979, and even for that age, being so young, they were willing to explore and experiment a lot. Some guys have even asked me before I wanted to do this review about the EP itself, was that what about things like the First Strike album or the War Child EP and so on. Well, those weren't exactly official releases by the band themselves, but hey, correct me if I'm wrong, maybe someone else has a different view, but as far as I'm aware, they're not exactly the official releases. They do feature some pretty interesting songs, such as Beyond the Temple from the War Child EP, War Child itself, which has quite a strong, I would say, Black Sabbath influence, kind of a War Pigs influence in the basic riff. But do check that out. They have a nice track on there, on the First Strike one, I think, First Strike EP, which was Good Morning Freedom, which they finally actually did play live for the Viva Hysteria live album series, which came out, some time ago. And that was interesting to see. And I think overall they've done, shown that, how they were as musicians, how they were composing songs and so on. Still like to see some of those tracks make it onto a final album one day or another, and probably reworked if it needs to be. But coming to the EP itself, really good, set the tone, and the band was keen at this point to really get a record deal and actually put out a new album, their first album, official full-length album, and which we're probably going to review in the next part. And did they really achieve the kind of stardom and the kind of fanfare that they were hoping for? Well, we're going to find out soon enough. So stay here and just stay tuned for the next series on this. Thanks. Bye.